All right, week 8 of the NFL season. Trade deadlines concluded. This is episode 1. Technically 2 in our eyes after technical difficulties last week failed us after the first recording, but this week brought us a lot more than last week anyways, so I'm happy, we get to actually officially start this week. We had a lot of great stories in the NFL. Packers took down the Cardinals. Thursday Night Football started up a great week, knocked off their undefeated streak to start the year. No more undefeated teams left. We still do have one defeated team after the weekend. The Lions lost to the Eagles to keep that streak going. And backup quarterbacks won the day on Sunday. Mike White, Geno Smith, Cooper Rush, Trevor Siemian all got wins on Sunday, and we got a really good one in store. Trade deadline, bit of a dud, but still a lot to uncover there. And the NFC continues to soar over the AFC, as the AFC is very questionable, all coming up right now. But first, we're going to start with the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week. Turn it over to Reese. As always, I'm with JD and Reese, and we're going to turn it over to Reese for his good pick of the week. Reese, what do you got?
All right, how we doing, boys? It's been a good week for the pod.
Very good.
All right, so my good for this week is the Saints. Another backup getting a win. The Saints hosted the Bucs this week. The defense played incredible. Tom Brady was uncomfortable in the pocket the whole game. You saw him at the end of the game throw a pick that sealed it. He's almost every time he's played the Saints, besides, of course, in the playoffs, he has not looked good. The Saints look great at home against him. He's 0-3 in his last 3 in the regular season. Winston, unfortunately, tore his ACL. It looked bad, and I don't want to say we knew it as soon as we saw it, but we knew it was bad. New Orleans, once Trevor Siemian came in, New Orleans turned on to their defense. Started with a strip sack against Brady that led to a field goal, gave him a 10-7 lead, and then a interception by C.J. Gardner-Johnson led to a touchdown for the Saints, made it 16-7 at half. The Bucs made a push at the end, but P.J. Williams picked Brady off, as I mentioned before, in the end zone to seal the Saints' 36-27 win. And, yeah, I mean, it was a great game for the Saints. They can't lose to the Bucs in the regular season.
I think the Saints they're not at the class of the NFC because we know the NFC is so good. There's 5 really good teams, but I mean, even with Simeon, we don't know. They got Rivers, maybe Cam coming in, but I think the Saints have a good shot in the NFC. I mean, the back end of the NFC is not that good because all the better teams are beating up on like Carolina, and I mean, I think the Saints have a good shot, definitely, to get in the playoffs. We'll see where they go from here with Simeon. I know there's been talk about Cam and Rivers. I don't know how likely they are. Rivers probably not too likely, but I mean, yeah, the Saints were good this week. They took down the Bucs. They did it mainly with Simeon at quarterback. And I think you got to feel good if you're a Saints fan after that game.
Yeah, losing Jameis definitely hurt them because the defense looks really good again.
Yeah.
The Saints always come to play at home. Dome was rocked. It's only their second home game of the year, really. But yeah, the NFC is just a little too strong for them with or without Jameis. I'm interested to see where they go with the quarterback position because Simeon's not a serviceable starting quarterback if you want to make the playoffs and actually do something in it.
Yeah, absolutely not.
NFC wild card right now pertaining to the Saints is not, like you said, JD, back end of the NFC, not very impressive. It's very top-heavy. And Taysom Hill's coming out of concussion protocol this week. So I don't know if he's going to be who Sean Payton says we're going to go right after, or we're going to run with him and he's definitely our guy, or if it goes to Phillip Rivers and Cam Newton. So they have an interesting dynamic for the rest of the year. But the Saints look really good. Sean Payton drew up a great recipe again on Sunday against the Bucs, as he always does. So they did a really good job.
I actually forgot about Taysom Hill because that injury.
Yeah.
He did go down. I mean, he struggles to throw the deep ball, which is why Winston won the job eventually anyway. But I think Taysom Hill might be their best option with they can run in the option offense. Like, he gives them versatility on the ground. They've got Kamara, they've got Ingram now. I think Taysom Hill gives them a chance, but like you said, I don't see them making it out of the NFC.
Yeah, Taysom Hill was something I wanted to touch on, but I forgot about. I'm interested to see if they do sign Cam Newton, what they do with those two. Because Cam could throw the ball deep. Obviously, he hasn't been great lately, but with both of those versatile quarterbacks, that changes the game. I could see him. I'm not even sure if he'll use Taysom Hill mainly, use Carson Wentz, use Cam Newton mainly, but I'm interested to see if they do sign Cam, what they do with Taysom Hill too.
Yeah, I thought that coming into this weekend, I thought that was going to be a close game. I thought the Bucs were going to win after losing both regular season games at home last year, but I mean, they make Brady so uncomfortable that with Jameis at the quarterback position, I thought this is a team that could really play spoiler in the NFC playoffs. But now, I mean, that was just a real killer for them. And are they getting Michael Thomas back? Is there any... The news changes with him every week, so...
Yeah, I don't know. Michael Thomas, they need him because they have, Callaway and Traquan Smith.
Yeah.
They're two top guys. I don't
They've been holding it down, though.
Anyone
They've
else
been looking okay
in that wide receiver core.
Yeah,
But
you saw all day, today and yesterday, I mean, they were... We'll talk about it later more, but, contacting teams, Odell, Jameson Crowder, and so on and so forth. But tough week for the Saints.
Yeah. All right, KB, I'm going to give you... Well, before I give you my good, I want to say, first episode, thank you for inviting us on to do this.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Trade deadline edition, first episode, not the most eventful trade deadline. We know the NFL doesn't like participating in the trade deadline like the other sports, but
Stinks.
I mean, hey, we got a few things to talk about, but for now, I'm going to give you my good this week. I'm going to give you my guys, the Green Bay Packers this week. Hell of a performance. Down 4 All-Pros, Bakhtiari, Devontae, Jair, Z. Smith. Some of them they've been without most of the year, so they've been making do. But all those guys are going to come back. They're going to get better. They may not have needed the trade deadline even to get better because of how well they're playing without those guys. LaFleur coached his best game as a Green Bay Packer Thursday. Best game plan. Everyone knew pretty much going forward with their wide receiver core. They really only had Cobb. They were down their top 3 guys, so they really had to run the ball. And A.J. Dillon had 16 carries. That was more than Aaron Jones. I mean, those 2 guys are a problem. And LaFleur's game plan was great, except inside the 5 for some reason. Him and Rodgers have an obsession with spreading it out and throwing the ball, but that's a question for a different time. But I mean, they had a perfect game plan. Rasul Douglas is a playmaker, dude. He might have AJ Green, little on AJ Green there, but I mean, he still had to make a tough catch. There's still a tough catch in the end zone. Gutekunst keeps making all the right moves. Devondre Campbell, Douglas. We got Whitney Merciless coming to play for the Packers for cheap. We got the O-line depth being tested early. I mean, Gutekunst for all the slack or for all the beating he's taken in the Rodgers-Love combo, he continues to make the right moves. And GM Rodgers makes the right moves too, bringing in Cobb, 2 touchdowns. Without Cobb, they don't win that game because then they don't have any capable wide receivers. And then reinforcements are on the way. The Packers are the class of the NFC. They've got their All-Pros coming back. They've got their rookie center Josh Myers coming back. They've got Lazard. They've got MVS. They did it without their defensive coordinator Joe Barry. So I mean, if you're a Packers fan, you got to be feeling pretty good. Like myself, I'm feeling good. I just wanted to, what do you guys think about the Thursday night game?
Yeah,
because it was a good one.
I agree with you. I'm mixed on LaFleur still because he wins games, but he hasn't gotten over the hump yet, and that obviously taints a coach that's in a winning spot. But this was by far his best game of his career. He never called a better offense. He had minimal to work with. A couple notes from the game. I love that A.J. Dillon is on the same team as Aaron Jones. They work so well together. Yeah. Dillon needs this role in the offense every week. I like putting Jones outside, putting him in the slot. He's as good of a receiving back as anyone in the league, and he doesn't get enough credit for it. Dillon can wear a defense out for 4 quarters. A tough runner, runs well between the tackles, always gets yards. Packers' offensive line every year is amazing. Late round picks. You mentioned Myers coming back this week. They do such a good job building that offensive line. But this week, the reason I think the Packers are at the top of the NFC is because their defense won them a football game.
They did.
And
defense,
that is
their
something
defense is great.
That's something I have not seen from them the last 3 years. I've seen Aaron Rodgers win them a ton of football games, and the defense won it. That was really, really promising for me.
Hold on, Reese. Sorry to cut you off. The defense is different than the past years. They struggle in the red zone, but they've been better the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, they've been great from the 20 to the 20. They've been great. They started great versus Kyler Murray. I mean, their top 5 total defense, they haven't played like it, but I mean, they can be that at the end of the year. And that might be what finally puts them over the top end of the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is just a huge statement game for the Packers. A statement game for LaFleur, statement game for Rodgers going out there with nobody to throw to. I think combined, besides Randall Cobb, obviously, there was a combined 29 total receptions from everyone he was throwing to. This, as you guys touched on before, and KB, you're still unsure, but this proved to me that LaFleur is a very, very good coach. He called like you said, a great game, and I was just really impressed with the defense. It honestly, when you get in the red zone, obviously your defense is going to matter. But if you're preventing teams from getting to the red zone 8 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, which is what it looks like the Packers defense is doing out there, they get right there and they just never can get into the red zone. So that's going to win the Packers games if you have such a good quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. I think they're the top 1 or 2 team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, the Packers' next few weeks are so crucial to their season. You had a Bucs loss this past weekend, so the Packers, I believe, are in line right now for the 1 seed in the NFC. They have to. They next 4 games. Correct me if I'm wrong on the order. Is the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Vikings, and the Rams? I don't know about that. I might have mixed up the Seahawks and Vikings. But
you're correct, KB.
Russell Wilson probably back for the Seahawks game. You don't want to drop one to this Chiefs team next weekend. You really don't.
No.
So you're going to get Mahomes, Russell Wilson, a Vikings team that can either blow you out of the water or is going to lay an egg every week. They're so unpredictable, but the Packers usually fare well with Minnesota. And that Rams game is really probably going to decide the 1 seed in the NFC at this rate. So I'm excited for the next few weeks.
For sure. And the Packers right now, the next 4 weeks are big for their season. They're not... the Vikings and Bears aren't a threat to win the division. The Packers are actually 4 games up in the win column. That's absurd. They pretty much have the division locked away. They can officially lock it up like real early and try to play for that 1 seed going down the line. But yeah, pretty much they got to beat the Rams if they want to have a shot at the 1 seed. I shouldn't say that because you can win. You can be the 1 seed with 3-4 losses. You got to assume the Rams are going to lose at some point to some other team. But I mean, yeah, the next few weeks are huge, and it starts in Kansas City. You don't want to lose a game to the Chiefs right now the way they're playing.
Yeah, and the Rams have that tough division, so it's going to be a lot harder for that division to produce a 1 seed. The Packers
the Rams
need to take
lose.
advantage of that. And I was talking to somebody this week. Oh, the Bucs went into Lambeau last year and won. It's the hardest place to play in football.
That's what the Bucs won it last year. You're right. It's not the main reason. Like the Bucs aren't going to lose if they go to Lambeau. You saw them win, but you want them going to Lambeau, even though they beat you there last year.
Yep.
You don't want to be going to Florida because Rodgers, for some reason, shits his pants every time he's in Florida.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought just now. What I was going to say, but Packers. Oh, you know what I was going to say. You really want that 1 seed because now you don't get to buy as a 2 seed. You want that 1 seed. Don't risk the upset in round 1. You really want that next game because that leaves time for Tampa Bay to get knocked out in the first round. That leaves time for the Rams to get knocked out in the first round. And if Tampa and the Rams, if it's between the Packers, Tampa, and the Rams for me. I like Dallas right outside, but we'll talk about that later more with the NFC. I'm not going to get too far into that right now.
Yeah, we'll touch on the NFC playoff picture later.
Yeah,
let's hear that good, KB.
So the good for me is I just want to say a couple things before I get into it. Provide some context. When we started coming up with ideas for this, probably a month ago, we started coming up with ideas for this podcast. Am I ever going to get to pick the New York Jets in a good column? Probably not, because even when they won against the Titans, it was awesome. They played pretty bad. The Jets did not play their best football game. And a week and a half ago, Zach Wilson's done for a few weeks. Oh no, Mike White's coming in. He's never played an NFL snap. This is the guy that we dogged Joe Douglas for making him the backup instead of a veteran. They trade for Joe Flacco. And while all this is going on, the NFL is falling in love with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and what the Bengals are doing. They sit atop the AFC coming into the week. But they had no idea what they were walking into on Sunday.
A buzzsaw.
They walked into an absolute buzzsaw at MetLife Stadium on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Halloween. The Jets sold about 20 tickets to the game. No one wanted to go. But they're pumping in the crowd noise. They got enough fans there going nuts. They're in the black uniforms. It was a funeral for the Bengals. I think that the Jets just ended their season. No, I'm kidding. But to dive into the stats, and to preface the stats by saying, aside from Mike White, I saw everything I wanted to see this year with the Jets. I'll start with White because he's obviously the central idea of this win. He threw for 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, 37 for 45. He caught a 2-point conversion, and he threw 2 interceptions. Neither of them were really his fault. Neither of them was bad read. First play, good coverage by the Bengals. They get a tip drill, they get the pick. Second one was a little bit of a panic check down. I thought Carter wasn't really breaking on his route yet, and he hit him in the back of the helmet, popped up, tip drill, picked. But the Jets' defense had a huge defensive stand after the first interception that was made possible because Elijah Moore didn't give up on a play that could have easily been a pick six. A lot of guys would give up on that play. Moore makes a tackle at the 1. Jets get the stop at the goal line. Michael Carter, the running back, 4th-round pick, who was an absolute steal for the Jets, we finally saw. He's played really well the whole year, and if you've been watching the Jets all year, you know that. But we finally saw his like coming out party. Welcome to the NFL. 15 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown. That was on the ground. He also led the team in receiving 9 catches for 95 yards. So in total, it's 24 touches for 172 yards and a touchdown. He blocked. He picked up a couple of huge blocks, protected Mike White. Buckle up to have about another 6 hours of this run through. Their rookies on defense and the young guys in general look fantastic. It was great to have Jarrad Davis playing. They've been waiting for him all year. Quinnen Williams, huge sack on 4th down. And then Michael Carter, me and Reese were just talking about it before we started recording. Michael Carter, the second from Duke, who was either the end of the 4th round or beginning of the 5th round this year, is so good. On the opposite side of last year's 5th round pick, Bryce Hall, who's also so good. The team had 32 first downs. That's, I think, the 4th most in Jet franchise history. They were just moving the chains all day. They had 13 minutes more of possession time. You know I love possession time against the Bengals this week. 36-20 for the Jets, 23-40 for the Bengals. And the best player on the Jets, to the eye of the person watching the game on Sunday, is C.J. Mosley. But C.J. Mosley is the second best player on this team. Elijah Vera Tucker is an absolute monster at left guard. This pick was so good for the Jets. Great. Just my last few, small notes here, and then I'll give you guys some time. Great 2-minute drill to end the first half. We scored twice on it, but only got credited for 1. Saleh, finally, we had the energy. If JD, you sent it, the Chuck Pagano clip on McAfee, and he was totally right.
Yeah.
They needed the energy. Where was San Fran Robert Saleh? And he was there this weekend, finally.
All it took was a beard to get him
going. All it took was
Yeah.
a beard. And also, Mike White is the biggest alpha male in the NFL, because he told Mike LaFleur, I don't want you on my sideline.
Yeah,
Zach
he did.
Wilson,
and then LaFleur turned into God.
Meanwhile, LaFleur is coddling Zach Wilson on the sideline all year, and he can't call a freaking play. Every play is like the biggest bunch over the middle of the field. There's no spacing, no protection. And LaFleur in the booth finally earned the name Mike LaFleur, no longer Mike LaFraud. I was very happy with the way he called the offense this week from the booth. Reese, if there's any more of the game that I didn't cover, please take it away.
I mean, I could just go on for hours. This is probably one of the best Jets wins I've seen in a long time. I haven't felt that happy watching a Jets game since the Robbie Anderson 92-yard pass touchdown from Darnold. I was so excited. I thought we had something there. But, I mean, Bryce Hall is very underrated. No one really talks about this kid. He held Jamar Chase to his worst week in the NFL by far. Jamar Chase was not very impactful in that game at all. The Jets, I don't know what to think anymore as a Jets fan, because seeing Mike White go out under center there, we looked like a real football team. Seeing like the timely trick plays, the smart decisions, you don't see that as a Jets fan. So to see your coach getting hyped up for your backup quarterback who just caught a ball in the back of the end zone is something we don't get to see, and it was great to watch. I don't really have anything else to say. You kind of touched on all the stats, but I'm just very happy to finally watch a competing football team and see them thrive and show their youth in a positive way instead of a bad one like we've seen. JD?
Yeah, and I on the Bengals front, I don't think the Bengals are dead yet. I think they'll be fine. They'll be in the playoff picture. It seems though like this is the Ravens division, but I mean you got the Steelers who are 4-3, the Browns are 4-4. The Bengals play the Browns next week, so I mean the Bengals aren't dead. It's a tough loss. They might have to reevaluate what they're doing on defense a little bit, but I'm happy for you guys. You know, it's not often that we get to do one of these. Maybe it will be now going forward. I'm actually very intrigued to watch the Jets on Thursday.
As we're going through this, I'm reading on my phone just to go back to why Elijah Vera Tucker is probably going to win the NFL MVP this season. I just read that Robert Saleh, who's on his way to a gold jacket right now, said that every day he goes into Joe Douglas's office and thanks him for trading up and getting Elijah Vera Tucker. And if I was allowed inside the Jets facility, I'd do the same thing. But on a serious note for the Jets, they have a real crucial offseason coming up because Bryce Hall's great, Michael Carter's great, but they don't have playmakers. They caught their first interception of the year this weekend, and it was because Shaq Lawson tipped up a pass and was in the right place, made the right play. Really great play by him. But these guys are not totally playmakers. They're good at breaking up the pass, but there's no ball hawk on this defense. They're not getting Carl Lawson hopefully will change things, but they're not getting that edge presence still. They have great interior rushers. And ever since they signed Franklin Myers, I haven't even seen him make a tackle. So,
yeah.
But really good stuff from the Jets this week. They look, like you said, Reese, the most important thing, they looked like a real NFL football team this weekend with a quarterback that made good decisions. And another thing I wanted to say, and you can touch on it too, all year we thought LaFleur is a terrible play caller. Sure, LaFleur definitely upped the creativity a little bit this week, but he had a quarterback that executed his plays for the first time all year. So I think that there's something to be said about maybe his play calling wasn't so bad the first 7 weeks, first 6 games of the season.
I wouldn't even say that his play calling wasn't bad. It was just nursing the rook. And Zach has been unable to make simple throws. If you've watched the Jets, you know, there's been simple screen passes to the right and just passes he needs to make across the field that can go for 5-10 yards that Mike White was completing every single time. When the Jets were playing the Titans shouldn't have even have had to miss that field goal for us to win that game. The game should have been over to Tyler Kroft in OT when he missed a wide-open tight end. It was a 5-yard throw. Mike White's going to make that throw. It might be because there was a spark or because he's energized for his first NFL start, but he's proving that he can thrive in an offense that Wilson isn't. So it's an interesting situation that goes on from here. I want to see how he does versus the Colts defense, which is good.
All right, I think that we've covered gangrene enough here.
KB, let me touch on one more thing.
Go for it. You think I'm going to stop you? Come on.
Let's go.
I'll touch on one more thing, then we'll move into the bad. You know, this Jets phenomenon, Mike White phenomenon, you know, on Thursday, it could go terribly south. But as a Jets fan, I'm happy for you guys. We gotta live in the moment because you don't get many of these.
Yeah,
you don't get many of
with
these.
what you're saying
I'm
there,
excited for a
if
Thursday
Mike
night game.
White totally craps it this week, we saw Elijah Vera Tucker's really good. The young defensive backs are really good. Elijah Moore can make plays. Denzel Mims should have had a great day, but he dropped a touchdown in the end zone. He can make plays. If he gets his head on straight, he's a great football player. And Michael Carter is your actual running back for the future. You don't have to worry about that position anymore. So
Yep.
you saw the things you wanted to see aside from the quarterback position. Now let's see if this carries or if Wilson learns from this.
He did do that
watching it.
with Corey Davis out, too.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Reese.
All right.
We're going to swing to the bad now. What do you got?
All right, my bad is a common bad this week. Everyone noticed it. It was a great game, but it's the Colts. Carson Wentz, although his stat line looked good, he was 27 for 51, 230 yards, three touchdowns, 2 picks. But it's the timely mistakes. Carson Wentz, I don't know who or what he thinks he's doing out there. He's trying to make some flamboyant, like, left-handed throws and he makes a stupid throw and it's an incompletion or the best throw you've ever seen. Carson Wentz is by far the most streaky quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion, and when he's on that streak of making bad decisions, he's going to lose you football games. And that's exactly what happened in the Colts game here. But I also can't blame it all on Carson Wentz because Jonathan Taylor was non-existent for half the game, and it's not his fault. I don't know what the coach is doing, giving Wentz the opportunity to throw the ball as much as he did 51 times, when you have Jonathan Taylor, who's proven himself to be a very good running back in this league. And then, Taylor's stats even looked good, but Nyheim Hines had 1 carry for 2 yards and a reception for 22. If you're combining Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, they remind me of the Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon combination. That's one guy's going to punch you in the mouth, and the other guy is going to juke you out and tire you down so the other one can come do it again. And all in all, it was just a bad coaching, bad decision-making, and a bad performance in the fourth quarter that made the Colts my bad this week.
Yeah, Carson Wentz is an absolute madman with the football. There is something. He will not give up on a play. I think he takes throwing the ball out of bounds as an insult to the game. He might take that as an insult because he refuses to throw the ball away. He's going to get himself killed, and you're right. Frank Reich is not giving Jonathan Taylor the ball enough. They asked him if he wanted to switch play calling, and he said absolutely not. So, we'll see if he wants to run the football this week against the Jets. But, the Colts are good. They're a good football team. They're the definition of a quarterback away. They've got pieces on offense. They've got great pieces on defense. Obviously, Darius Leonard. But, they're still in it. They're 3-5. They're still in it. But Carson Wentz, that offense needs to figure it out, or they're going to be dead soon.
Yeah, I'm high on the Colts going into this game this weekend, but they are now 3-5, and the Titans are 6-2. And you really, obviously, you didn't know Derrick Henry was going to be out of the game, but you really needed to start closing that gap on the division because the AFC wildcard race is not like the NFC where you're going to get in at, 9-8, 8-9. There's some good teams in it because the AFC is kind of that mix of all the good teams when the great ones are at the top of the NFC, but that's besides the point. The Colts, they lost a really critical game in their season this week, and they easily could have won it. And Wentz, like you said, Reese, Wentz is so streaky, and he did not have one of his good games this week. Hopefully that carries to Thursday, and he throws a few picks early, and Mike White dices him up.
Yeah, I just wanted to hit on one more thing. Henry had 23 rushes for 68 yards. He was not much of a factor that game, and the defense still got shredded. They didn't use Henry. They were throwing the ball, and they just didn't look good on either side of the ball after the first half.
Yeah, and I was high on the Colts going into this weekend too. I thought, they lost both games to the Titans. If you want to win the division, you want to make the playoffs, you can't get swept by divisional opponents. I thought they had a good shot going into this weekend at home. I thought they were heading in the right direction, and they had a good amount of chances to win this game, but in the end they blew it. So,
all right, JD, what's the bad?
For my bad this week, I've got the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what to make of the Browns. Do we think Baker Mayfield is bad, fellas? Do we think Baker Mayfield's bad?
I think he's figured out. Again, same thing with Mahomes.
I don't think he's bad. I think that Mayfield is just serviceable, middle of the pack type of quarterback.
Now, as the Browns GM, are you paying Baker Mayfield $35 million?
You can't.
No,
It's
and
too
I'm not
much.
aware.
You have
Did they
you
give
have
his 50 year
PTSD though, because the Browns couldn't find a quarterback for 20 years, and then you
Did they
finally got
give him
Mayfield. You think
his
he's the guy.
50-year option?
He's a free agent after this year,
So he's a free agent.
So they
yeah.
have to tag him.
You
They
got to
have
pay him,
use
but I don't know what his market value is going to be. He's going to ask for over 30. I don't know if that's something that anyone's going to give him. So
with the team they have, it
other
just
than
might not
that,
be a good idea for the Browns. They have such a good defense.
Landry and Odell are non-factors on that offense. I don't know. Baker refuses to throw the ball to Odell. I don't know what's going on there. They can't move the ball in the passing game. I don't know if part of it's because of Baker's injury. I know it's non-throwing shoulder. It could still bug him. But, I mean, the Browns' offense looks bad. Chubb only had like 60-some yards that game. I mean, he never really got going. He's coming off injury. The defense was fine. The Steelers' offense is not good. They only put up 15 points. You think the Browns would win in that scenario, but, I mean, a 15-10 loss to a divisional opponent at home, it's going to land you in the bad. And then, you know, they were 3-1 a few weeks ago. Everything was looking good. You're feeling good if you're a Browns fan, and now, what, five weeks later, they're 4-4. I mean, it's a lot of question marks. I don't know what they're going to do going forward.
yeah, I think that Cleveland's turning into that team similar to the Colts. You got a really solid defense. You got a really good offensive line, but if your run game's not working for you, you're not winning football games. So they don't have that quarterback, which they have. It seems like they have everything else for it. They have good tight ends. They have a good offensive line. They have good receivers. It seems like they have everything to win a game passing, too. But I think Mayfield, it's got to be something with Mayfield's injury because he's definitely regressed this season from even last year when I didn't think he was particularly great anyways. But he was able to do things with his arm to win games. So it's got to be something with this injury or I don't know because he's not on the same page with any of his receivers. Or they're not on the same page with him. It just does not look pretty at all. And the Steelers are not very good. So
no, the Steelers are not good, but they are on the up. And the Browns, the AFC is suspect, but like you said, as a whole, it's going to be harder to get into as one of those low-end wildcard teams because you don't have the elites of the elites beating up on everybody at the top. So the Browns. They've got to figure it out quick, but there is time. It starts with a win over the Bengals this week.
And you're probably in the toughest division in the AFC there, so you really got to take advantage of those games close. Like if you're holding Pittsburgh to 15, if you're holding anyone to 15 in the NFL now, and you want to make the playoffs,
you got to win.
You got to win.
Especially division games like that. I know they're tough. It was a hard-nosed. We predicted it. It was a hard-nosed AFC North game, one of those classic Steelers-Browns games. But, I mean, what is Big Ben? What is he, like 25-3 and 1 against the Browns?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he owns them. The Browns were bad this week, but, I mean, they got time to figure it out. For sure.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the Browns. They haven't really impressed me, but I feel like they're right there. They're, in my opinion, similar to the Chiefs, where they're due to explode at some point. But we're getting into a part of the season where if you don't start playing well now, you're not going to win a division. You're not going to make the playoffs, and if you do, you're going to go in cold, and it's not going to look great. So I think if they don't start picking it up now, don't start throwing the ball to Odell more, teams are game planning for people other than your star wide receiver. I think you need to get him the ball no matter what. You have to force it at some point. He's not getting the ball enough.
Yeah. So for my bad for this week, unless anyone else has anything to chime in on, I've got the Chargers at home against New England. Chargers are coming off the bye. I was really high on the Chargers when they were either 4-1 or 4-2 when they won their fourth game. I believe 4-1 though. Now they're coming 2 straight losses with a bye week in between. Herbert, second year in a row, he's figured out by Belichick. The play calling was not very good. Herbert on the day threw for 223 yards, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. And I it just was a classic Belichick out-coach the rookie head coach type of game, and they looked really bad. And Staley, ever since he got all that praise for that overrated press conference where he said we're going to tire the defense out by running, I'm just using that as a mark on the timeline for him. He's 0-2, and they're not good losses. They lose by 3 to a New England team that I still don't think is particularly good. I think that they're just well coached, and they tried forcing it to Herbert way too often. One of his picks is a pick 6, and you're not giving the ball to Eckler. Got a lot of touches, but he's not getting in the best situations. And Justin Jackson, the backup, ran 3 carries for 79 yards. Why is he getting 3 carries? Why aren't you splitting these guys? He broke off one.
That huge run.
I think for 74 or 75 of those 79 yards were on that one, but why aren't you splitting those 2 up? Because you actually have a good backup running back. Look at what the Saints just did. Sean Payton might be the second best coach in our lifetimes behind Bill Belichick. Sean Payton just brought back Mark Ingram because he understands the value of taking the load off of Kamara. Take the load off Eckler, because Eckler is an injury-prone guy. He's been banged up a lot. He's questionable every week, it seems. So try to take the load off your superstar a little bit, because these running backs are getting hurt every week, and you got to give the ball to your backup guys. You got to have good backups. Look at A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Look at the running back rooms that work really well. Chubb and Hunt. Is Chubb as good without Hunt? No, he's not. So it's just something that I think the Chargers have to address, getting the ball to more players. And now we saw the huge Mike Williams explosion to start the year. The last 2 weeks of games, he's been banged up, and him not playing as good has really hurt their offense. So interesting next couple of weeks coming up for the Chargers. They got to win a few, because now they're in second place in that division, and they don't look good at all, but don't expect the Chiefs to just stand pat the whole year.
Yeah.
No, and then I think the downfall of that Chargers offense has been Mike Williams' injuries, and that's his downfall too. Is Mike Williams is usually always a little banged up. He's always a little injured. He'll miss a few games here and there, but I mean, he really gives Herbert a nice option out there between him and Keenan, and Jared Cook's been good. I mean, the Chargers rightfully in the bad this week. They did get owned by Belichick again. Last year they lost that game on Thursday night 40-0. That was Herbert's real wake-up call in the NFL. But I mean, the Chargers, they'll be fine. They got a few things to figure out. They'll make the playoffs. The AFC West though is up for grabs, because you got the Raiders at 5-2, I believe. The Chargers at 4-3. The Chiefs 4-4. Broncos aren't really a threat, but yeah, the Chargers, they gotta get back to playing like they were before the Ravens game, and I think they will. I think they'll be fine, but yeah, deservedly in the bad this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this quick, but when you give Bill Belichick a weakness, when he finds something, he is going to rip you apart for that until you fix it. He completely outcoached Staley, and Staley was not able to figure out what Bill was shooting for, trying to find the weak spot in their offense and defense, and they were just a better coached team in the end.
Yep. All right, now we can go to the ugly. I thought the bads for this week were good bads. Obviously, not a lot to talk about. I think the ugly this week, though, is pretty loaded up with some absolute garbage around the NFL.
Yeah.
And I'm glad the Jets are not included in it this week, because they have been the ugliest team in the league every week. So, Reese, take it away.
All right, so my ugly this week is the Vikings. The Vikings played the Cowboys Sunday Night Football. This was a statement game for the Vikings to prove themselves. It's a backup quarterback. Dak is out. You're playing a 5-1 Cowboys team that took Dak out, knowing he could probably play. They were kind of saying McCarthy said all week that it was just it's more than one game. So they were sort of accepting that Dak is going to be out because they want him to be safe, and almost okay with a Vikings loss. And Kirk Cousins comes out prime time and shits the bed like he always does. The offense was very underwhelming. Trayvon Diggs, who's known for giving up big plays to receivers, besides being an absolute ball hawk and being probably the defensive player of the year this year, Jefferson didn't do anything. He was barely noticeable throughout the game. And Cooper Rush just outperformed Kirk Cousins. He threw 325 pass yards compared to Kirk's 184. The Vikings were 1 for 13 on third down. 9 of the Vikings' 12 possessions lasted 5 plays or less. And in the second half, they didn't have a drive that lasted for more than 36 yards. C.J. Ham finished the game with more catches than Justin Jefferson, and it was really just an ugly, ugly game for the Vikings. On the other hand, Dallas is 7-0 against the spread. We'll get more into that this Thursday when we talk about our picks, but Dallas has been a team to ride this year.
They're wagging, yeah. And I think Dallas is a very good football team. The Vikings are not dead because the back end of the NFC wild card is so bad, but I think it's time to start thinking about life after Cousins and Zimmer for the Vikings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, I don't know where that's going. They've made the playoffs a bunch the last few years, but not really ever a threat to win, except when they had Keenum that one year. But since then, I mean, they've been a consistent playoff team. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. I think they're heading down one of those dark paths, another Vikings rebuild. But I mean, the Cowboys are good, and they went in there and they pretty much executed, I think, what they were setting out to do with Cooper Rush: keep it simple, score points, play good defense, and ultimately win by a few points. But yeah, the Vikings are not in a good spot.
And the Cowboys are just another team like the Packers with their division on lock.
Yeah.
With that win, you can almost, unless Dak gets hurt, these guys get hurt, you can almost guarantee a Dallas NFC East championship.
Yeah. The Vikings, I alluded to it before a little bit. They're boom or bust. It's either the offense is going to go off or it's not. And now Danielle Hunter's out for the year. He's their best player. Yeah. They're done. They're buried. Kirk Cousins, I think Kirk Cousins is a free agent after this year. Or he's got
maybe one more. I'm unsure.
He was.
I don't know if they gave him some sort of an extension or anything.
I think they extended him. I'm not sure. Let me look that up quick. I looked that up.
Yeah, but either way, I'll keep going while you're looking that up. I thought that they were going to have a really good offense this year. I thought that they were going to be able to really get it to Thielen and Jefferson, and when Cook's playing, you expect when all three of those guys are playing and Cousins is healthy, that the offense should be putting up points. It was an embarrassing loss to Dallas with a backup quarterback, and they're playing in Minnesota. That was a really bad loss for them. I think it ended their season, and I think Zimmer should probably have packed his bags yesterday morning. But yeah, really. So they got to start thinking about what's next for them. It's going to be a probably clean house for the entire organization.
Yeah.
And Cousins last offseason signed a 2-year, $66 million extension.
Yeah, he's making $23 million.
He's got one more year. They won't be able to move that contract. No one wants Kirk Cousins. Zimmer, they did extend Zimmer too. So if they do fire him, I'm sure there's going to be some money they'll still owe him. But I think it's time for the Vikings to realize that this quarterback coaching duo / core is not going to get it done. They got to build up with Jefferson, and hopefully they get Hunter back. And I mean, it's not looking good for them. But I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of season left. They could surprise some people, but I just don't see it.
I mean, they seem to be entering a possible dark ages period in Minnesota because they're going to make that coaching change at the end of the year if it happens. And then this coach is stuck with Kirk Cousins for the first 2 years. They don't have cap, new GM, and the team's going to suck. Coach by the end of Cousins' contract's already in 2 years. And by that time, Justin Jefferson's going to want out. Thielen's probably going to be at the end. Hunter's probably going to be gone. So they just seem to be entering one of those terrible, terrible stages. And yesterday was just an awful, awful loss.
Yep.
Yeah, they've got pieces on the offensive side of the ball. They got to hit. They got to hit on draft picks, and they got to find a quarterback. Dalvin Cook is always injury prone. Yep. He is a monster when he's on the field, and then you have Justin Jefferson, who also is a monster. But Cook's had trouble staying on the field. They don't have that guy at quarterback, and I think it's time for Zimmer to
it's time to go.
Up.
Yep.
Yeah, and that'll bring me. I'll do my ugly now. The Detroit Lions, NFC North theme. I've got the Lions and the ugly. And the thing is, they would have been my good last week because you don't have to win and be a great, like, if you have a good week, you can find yourself in the good. The Lions had a good week last week. I thought that was something to build off of, but we were completely wrong. The Lions are dead. They might go 17-0. And it was like the football gods are like, because we joke about like the Jets curse sometimes, and in like other sports you have like the Mets curse and stuff, but the Lions curse is real. It was like the football gods were like, some people picking the Lions this week, some people really believe in this team, we're going to ruin their week. Because the Lions were that bad. They were dominated in all three phases, offense, defense, special teams. Swift and Hawkinson are really their only two talented players, and that's harsh, but Swift had 12 carries on 27 yards. The Lions' offense is not going to do anything when he's not going. Goff is horrible. Might be a little harsh on the Lions. They're 0-8. They deserve it. They might go 0-17.
Yeah,
what do you guys
think the Eagles were pissed. If I'm an Eagles player, hearing that like half of Vegas, I think it was 40%, 50% of the money, maybe more, was on the Lions. If I'm an Eagles player, I am pissed off. I think they came out and they wanted to mutilate the Lions. They wanted to show the world that no matter how bad the Eagles are, they are not going to lose to the Lions, and they absolutely destroyed them. There was nothing left of the Lions after that week.
Yeah, really discouraging one too for Dan Campbell and the coaching staff.
Yeah,
because I mean, you're coming in against another coach that I don't think highly of at all, Nick Sirianni.
No,
and you got abused, man. I mean, really, really bad game. But
completely outcoached.
They have the makings.
Outcoached.
They have the makings right now of one of those 0-17 seasons. They already had a few heartbreakers. The Tucker field goal. Last week they had a close one with the Rams. Like, you know, these bad teams only have so many games that are winnable. And when you get a couple early in the season and don't close them out, and now you see yourself get blown out by a really bad opposing team, then it's not looking very promising for the Lions.
It is hard to lose, or it is hard to not win one game in the NFL. You saw it with the Jets last year. I mean, the Jets, talent-wise, last year were probably the worst team to ever step on a field. And they beat the Browns and the Rams last year. So it's any given Sunday, but if I had to place money on a team to go 0-17 before the year, it still would have been the Lions, and they're just not good.
And you have to assume an upset will come at some point. You have to assume they might. You can't even assume that because they're that bad. You don't want to assume they're going to win, but it is very likely that they will upset somebody at some point. There's a lot of season left. But when you're giving up, 4 combined touchdowns to Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, what year are we in?
Yeah, that was bad.
How is that even... And the Eagles, too, by the way, they go in throwing it all around the field. Jalen Hurts is the only one rushing the football. And then they come in and they score. Boston Scott's got 2 rushing touchdowns, and Jordan Howard's got 2 rushing touchdowns. This game went as completely, I did not see this coming at all.
It went
south.
It was
completely a shock.
Quickly.
But it's the same old Lions, and I don't even know what to say about them at this point.
Yep.
But KB, you want to, unless you got something else on the Lions, you want to finish us up here with the last ugly?
No, I have nothing else for the Lions.
They don't deserve any more of our time.
They don't deserve it. No. They're terrible.
I'm going to go to the ugliest team in the NFL right now. I think even uglier than the Lions. Uglier than the Texans, who stink.
Yeah.
I know where this is going.
Urban Meyer's Jacksonville Jaguars are the worst, most least prepared team I have ever seen. I don't even know where to start in this game.
KB, let me just say something. I want to just get it off by actually no. You go, because at the end when you're done it'll be relevant at the end. You can go.
So, first of all, I don't know how Urban Meyer's still on the sideline. I don't.
Yeah, he's terrible.
He is so bad. After the Bengals game, when he didn't fly back with the team, and you see him with these girls at the bar, and this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't even know how he got hired. They got totally outcoached by Pete Carroll, which I thought was going to happen before this game. Where is James Robinson? He got 4 carries.
He went out. I believe he went out with an injury. I believe.
So he goes out with an injury, But where has he been all year?
Yeah.
They don't
When
use
they
the
use
ball.
him, they do better. Much better.
That one game that it wasn't the game they won in London, unless it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Robinson had one really good game. I feel like it was week 3 or 4 that they actually used him and they almost won the game. Maybe it was the Cardinals game, I think. And they don't use James Robinson when he's healthy. I saw that he came out. I honestly did not know how early or late he came out, but he's averaging 5 yards a carry this year, and he's barely getting
he's
touches.
good.
He ran for over 1,000 yards last year, his rookie year. But the penalties, they had 12 penalties for 93 yards. That's all coaching. More than 50% of the penalties in the NFL are because of lack of discipline, lack of coaching during the week. They ran 11 drives and 74 plays. To put that into perspective, I'm just saying it because of the Jets' relevance to us. The Jets ran 70 plays, and I felt like they were on the field the entire game.
They really were on the field most of the game.
They were. The Jaguars were on the field for pretty much just as long as any team that had a really good offensive day, and they scored 7 points. And then icing on the cake is all. I'm not even going to go into this yet. I'm going to finish with this point. Geno Smith threw for 195 yards. Tyler Lockett had 142 of them. That's 53 of their passing yards that didn't go to Lockett. Did you think about adjusting?
Yeah, and they put up 31 points with 100-some yards passing.
The second that Urban Meyer got hired, they finally had, out of all the positions on this Jaguars team, what was the one that was really good last year? James Robinson, the running back. Then they draft ETN with the first-round pick. So it's just been a disaster for them. And then if it couldn't get any worse, they're that one team every year that let an onside kick attempt go for a touchdown.
Always
They
one
were
team.
that
What was
team
it last year? The Bills
this year.
against Miami?
The Bills scored it last year against Miami, yeah, and now it's the Jaguars allow it this year. This is the worst football team I've ever seen in my life. I'll never see a worse team play. I'll never see a worse
I was going to say, I think
except for Adam Gase and the Jets last year.
Urban Meyer might be worse. He is
Urban Meyer might be
Adam
worse.
Gase's
'Cause
level
you know what?
without any self-respect.
Because he has at least Gase was an NFL guy,
Yeah.
and Urban Meyer has no idea what
He
he's
is
doing
out there
here.
picking and choosing.
Listen. So this is what I was gonna say before. So they're down 24-0, right? They're pushing the ball down the field, and they score a touchdown. So it's 24-6. At 24 is 3 possessions. You do 8. That's 24. You get 2 points. So he doesn't kick. He scores a touchdown, but he doesn't kick the 2. He doesn't do the 2 points. He kicks the extra point. So it's 24-7. At that point, you're basically like, white flag. We've lost this game.
Yeah.
We're not going for the tie. It's still 3 possessions because we didn't do the 2 point. But then he still goes and kicks the onside kick. What are you doing? If you're waving the white flag, kicking the extra point, and not trying to cut it to 2 possessions, and then you're kicking the onside kick, you absolutely deserve whatever's coming to you. Absolutely deserve that touchdown. And I'm under the impression that Urban Meyer didn't know 24 points is a 3 possession.
The Jags are just that team. I'm a Jets fan. The Jags have done nothing to me, and I hate them. I want to see. It's not even them. I just hate Urban Meyer. I want to see that man crumble because he's done nothing. He has done nothing to be a good coach. He doesn't care about the team. He cancels practices for his personal matters. I don't think he should be an NFL coach. I don't think he ever should have been one. I think he's got to go. I don't know why he's still here.
You could tell that Urban Meyer came out of retirement from coaching football and into Jacksonville thinking that Trevor Lawrence would immediately start winning in football games no matter what happened. Because in college, that's how it works. Ohio State, you get a great quarterback and a couple really good players, you're going to win 10 games out of 12. But the NFL's a different breed. Urban Meyer is not built for this. The general manager is horrendous. He was with San Fran prior to John Lynch and Shanahan getting there, and he was the worst. If you remember San Fran prior to Shanahan, they were awful. And this was Urban Meyer's guy. The owner's a joke. Shah Khan, he's a joke.
Yeah.
This is just an embarrassing team.
And then speaking of Lawrence, Urban kind of takes all not so as the blame, but he takes the media attention away because if there was no Urban, everyone would be ripping Trevor Lawrence. I feel like no one's talking enough about how bad Trevor Lawrence is. Granted, it is the Jaguars. They have not helped him in the slightest. They don't hand the ball off to James Robinson. But Lawrence is going to have to be better at some point this year. You have to at least show us why you were the number one.
And you hit
overall
on
pick.
exactly what I was thinking. If you're not handing the ball off to James Robinson, you know where the football's going to be. It's going to be in the rookie's hands. And if you're playing anything like a real NFL team, they are going to pressure Lawrence, force him to make the plays to win, because you're taking the ball out of the best player on the team's hands. You're never giving him the ball, and that's just a recipe for failure from the beginning.
Yep. Are we all good now? Anything else on good, bad, ugly? I also wanted to put an honorable mention in for the ugly. The New York Giants, I think, are an absolute miserable failure of a rebuild. Joe Judge stinks. Daniel Jones stinks. The entire team stinks. Defense played really good last night. They still lost. I think that they're awful.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'll touch on the Giants quick. I think the Giants are they're in every game. It seems every primetime game they're in it at the end, and they wind up losing. Joe Judge has no idea what he's doing with his timeouts. He has no idea. He's talking about how his headset's not working.
Yeah, because that.
The Giants, Daniel Jones shows you flashes, and they show you flashes every game, but in the end, they do crumble. And I mean, they got to question Gettleman, they got to question Judge. And I think it's going to be an interesting offseason for them. I know a lot of season left, but the Giants are buried.
The Giants have a lot to question.
A
lot to question.
We're already seeing, I really like Kadarius Toney. The talent is great. We're already seeing he can't stay on the field.
Yep.
No, we can't.
Same thing with the Giants' offense,
Tony's great.
Tony can't stay on the field. They gave Galladay $19 a year. He can't stay on the field. He couldn't
Barkley
before.
hasn't been on the field in 2 years.
Barkley can't stay on the field, and when he is now, he's not even close to the same player. The offensive line is just it's
horrible.
I can't even explain how bad Gettleman has done with this offensive line. 1 first-round pick was spent, and it was Andrew Thomas, who has shown me absolutely nothing good.
He's been better, but he's not.
Yeah,
great.
and
he's not
improved
playing
this
at
year
the
to the
level
point
he was
where
expected to.
Reminds me of like an Eric Fisher type of thing, and Fisher is not. He was a first-round pick. He was a first overall pick. He was not the 4th pick. So it's like Fisher, you expected a little more, I guess. But he was reminding me of that, serviceable for maybe 2 contracts. But
they have to start building up the O-line.
Everything starts with the O-line.
They have 2 first-round picks. They have 2 first-round picks this year. They're going to be good ones. Maybe top 10, probably top 15. The Bears are not going anywhere this year. One of them has to go to offensive line since they whiffed not taking Slater last year. I know they traded down. They took Tony. Tony's good, but Rashawn Slater was there. He's been the best alignment in the draft. The Giants need to hit on an O-line pick, and they need to start building that up because they got weapons on offense. They can stay healthy. They've got weapons. They've got playmakers on defense. They need a secondary. Adoree Jackson. I don't know how that signing is going to go. They gave him 3 years. What did they $39 million? He hasn't been great. Bradbury's been Bradbury, but I mean,
Leonard Williams
way too much money.
Yeah, the Giants have a lot of questions in the offseason that they're going to need to answer.
Yeah. So to move on from, unless you guys got any other honorable mentions for the week, we start talking trade deadline. The only trades of any significance was Melvin Ingram from the Steelers to the Chiefs for a 6th-round pick, but more importantly, future Hall of Famer Von Miller heading to the Rams for a 2nd and 3rd-round pick. JD, you want to get us started on that one, with your NFC knowledge?
Yeah, it is scary, the thought of 201 combined sacks, I believe it was, between Donald and Von Miller going up against an offensive line. I think the Rams have earned the right to be called the best team in the NFL. I think it's interchangeable between them, the Packers. I know the Bucs lost. We know they're the Bucs, the Bills, but I think the Rams are definitely a problem. I don't know if I agree with the approach by the front office or / McVay. I don't know who's the one calling the shots. 3 draft picks, a 5th and 2 7th. That's not enough to sustain success. You got to hit on draft picks. But right now, this is a great move for them. A 2nd and a 3rd for Von Miller. That's a problem. I think the Packers match up well versus the Rams. I think the Bucks have lost, but will match up well in the playoffs versus the Rams when they're healthy. It's definitely scary. It's a great move for them, but they are mortgaging their future on a Super Bowl now or next year. I want to know what you guys think about dealing the draft picks like that.
I think after this trade was made, it was a statement by the Rams to just let everyone know they're in a win now mentality. Nothing else besides this year matters to them right now because they know they have what it takes to win. They just traded for Stafford, top 5 quarterback this year. They did lose Deshaun Jackson, not a huge loss, but definitely a deep threat that could be considered as something relatively important to that offense. I think they'll easily replace him, but it's still something to note. And that Rams defense is going to be a problem for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, they mortgage their future. They have to win it this year. I think they got a great shot at it.
Absolutely.
They do.
Which is not even opinion. That's just fact. They have as good a shot, if not a better one, than anyone in the league. But they got to do it this year, and I think that it's a really good move for them. I don't think Von Miller is. I know a lot of people are trying to say, "Oh, he's not the same guy." Yeah, he's not the same guy as he was in 2015 when the Broncos won the Super Bowl, but he's still in the top percentile of pass rushers in the league.
And think.
Von
and now you got Aaron Donald
think about the headache
drawing
for
double team.
every team on offense. They're going to have to put 2 guys on Miller, 2 guys on Aaron Donald.
You could just always assign a running back to block Von Miller if he got past your tackle, and you could always double up, or you could always just double them up on the line. But you can't double up 2 guys.
Exactly. So
one of them is always going to be in a one-on-one, and I think it's a great move for the Rams because I think the teams you have to beat, the Packers, Bucks, and Cowboys,
to the QB,
might have some of the best offensive lines in the league in pass protection and just overall. And you have to get to those quarterbacks, but especially when it comes to Tampa Bay, you have to get to Brady.
Yep,
you have
because
to.
Rodgers, we know how Rodgers is in the pocket, and Brady's got great pocket navigation, but we know he can't move. Aside from the short steps in the pocket that he makes that he's great at, he's the best at, he can't move. You got to get to Dak, you got to get to Rodgers. Kyler Murray, you have to get to Kyler Murray. So this is and for that division to win games too, you got to get after Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray. I mean, the 49ers are just another team right now that I don't know what's going on with them. But I thought it was a really good move for them. Second and third, too. The Rams, I don't know if they're good at drafting because they really haven't had many picks to
They haven't had picks. They didn't have any last year either.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
they had picks, but not a lot.
I don't know how good they are at drafting. So I don't know. These Seattle always gave up their picks too, but they were never great at drafting. So it was kind of like a fair trade-off there. It was a smart move to make.
But now you see the direction Seattle's going.
Yeah,
exactly.
So you have to get that Super Bowl.
Yep.
You have to get it.
And I know we talked about the ability for Donald to draw a double team, and I think why the reason the Packers match up so well versus the Rams is because of Elton Jenkins' ability last year in the playoffs. We saw it to hold Aaron Donald one-on-one because he was up there with Aaron. Like, you have Bakhtiari and Jenkins on the left side. I think Bakhtiari would get Leonard Floyd in this scenario. I think Von Miller would be on the other side. But you have Elton Jenkins who can stop Aaron Donald one-on-one. That's huge. And, I think the Rams can definitely be called the best team in the NFL after this trade. I think the NFC is interesting between them. Right now, because the Bucks, right now, I think the Rams eventually beat out the Cardinals for the division. It's obviously a toss-up, but right now the Bucks and Rams would play in round 1. Because the Bucks are the 4, Rams are the 5. That's huge for the other NFC teams like the Packers, the Cardinals, the Cowboys, because you want those guys beating up on each other.
Yeah, and
I feel like Leonard Floyd and I don't even know who the other rusher is for the Rams, but Leonard Floyd and whoever else is rushing is going to have the chance of the opportunity of a lifetime to flourish right here. They're going to have guaranteed one-on-one matchups. You got to get to the quarterback if you want to win football games. I think the Rams are going to do that probably the most effectively we will see this season if Von Miller and Aaron Donald are both healthy. Bradley Chubb's been out, and Von Miller's used to being double teamed. He's gonna go off too.
Yeah, I think that this is good for them too. You can really mix up the looks that you're giving defenses, that you're giving the offenses. It's a lot having. You don't know. Von Miller's so capable of playing each outside linebacker position and each edge position, and Aaron Donald is capable of playing all 11 positions on the defense. So it's you get a lot of flexibility adding another Aaron Donald type of guy in that regard, where he could play both sides of the field, or you could even put him up the middle. So they're going to throw a lot of looks, and it's going to make it a really tough time because they don't have great linebackers. The middle of the Rams' defense is not great. The outsides are great.
And Jalen Ramsey, touching on your linebackers point, Jalen Ramsey, we haven't touched on him at all.
Yeah.
They move him up to play like
the linebacker stuff.
Like
box.
he plays everywhere. He pass rushes. Him versus Devontae is going to be epic to watch again. They play in 3 weeks. They probably will play in the playoffs, but I just wanted to touch on. We haven't even touched on Jalen Ramsey.
Ramsey is probably, in my opinion, they have the two best defensive players in the NFL. I think.
Yeah, they do.
No doubt.
Donald and Ramsey, and I don't know which one's better at their position right now. It's really because they're a frightening team. But we got to see Matthew Stafford in the big game too, because Detroit never put him in the big game.
Yeah,
they put him in a couple wild cards with Caldwell.
And Stafford has been unnoticeably streaky. Like, there's been a few times I'll put on the Rams game, and he's not making the throws that you would think Matt Stafford would make. But not to put him down at all. He's been absolutely incredible. He just hasn't been hitting on every throw.
He's elite. Yeah.
I actually agree with what you're saying, though. I think that there's been games where you're like, Stafford, the offense is carrying him a little bit. I have a feeling that give it 5 or 6 more weeks, and the two parties of the team and Stafford are going to click. I don't think they've clicked yet. I think that they're going to really lock in a couple weeks, and it's going to be really disastrous for the rest of the league. But that being said, we could just kind of groove into the NFC talk a little bit. You could have a great offense. That's why I like this move on the defense, because the Rams could not make a move to their offense. I feel like all these offenses are as good and efficient as they can be with the Rams, Packers, Cowboys, and Bucks, and the Cardinals. I think that they're all really efficient. They're all really good. And I think that adding the defensive player was much more important than adding somebody on the other side.
Yeah, and I think the NFC teams are only getting better because you got the Rams improving. I think the Cardinals they lost, but I think the Cardinals are still good. The Packers are getting back. Not anytime soon. I give it at least another 3 weeks, but you're going to get back Jair and Zadarius Smith. Those are huge on the defense, and their defense has already been playing good. And then you have Dallas, whose defense now under Dan Quinn is very opportunistic.
Yeah.
They pick the ball off. They force turnovers. I mean, the NFC, we're going to figure a lot about the NFC teams over the next few weeks. We'll know more soon, but right now, I mean, it's just a cluster of just powerhouses at the top.
Yep.
And then I wanted to touch on the Broncos haul in this. I know it wasn't a haul. People are like, I see like a lot of people saying the second and third is not a lot. I mean, maybe for what Von Miller was and what he still is, it's not a lot, but you have to think about the salary situation and a team like Denver, who might be trading assets for a quarterback in the offseason. Who knows? I know Aaron Rodgers would cost a lot. There's not a lot in the draft, but if they do trade assets for a quarterback, they have those assurances, backup second-round picks, third-round picks. I mean, there's value in the second and third round.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if the Broncos got fleeced. Like
I don't think they got fleeced.
Saying.
I think they did what they had to do with the situation they're in. Their team isn't going anywhere. Their offense is not good enough.
Yeah.
Their defense is all right. But when they play a real team, they've proven that they are not good.
And at this point, do you even want to pay an aging Von Miller at the end of the season?
Yeah, you're not going to
really.
re-sign him, and your compensation pick for him is going to be, a 5th, 6th. So
yeah, and you flip him for a second and third. I thought it was a fine trade. Who even knows if he stays with the Rams? I think a lot of teams didn't want to give up that for what they thought could be a rental because I feel like a team like Green Bay or like one of those colder. I mean, he's played in Denver, but I feel like I don't know if he'd re-sign with a team in Green Bay. But they don't have like a team like Green Bay, the Bucks, Dallas. They don't have the cap space to even sign him. So I mean, it was a lot to give up for those contenders and assets. I know the Rams aren't very fond of their picks, but I mean, I thought it was a good trade for both sides. I think the Rams get better. There's a chance at them paying Von Miller, and then the Broncos get something back for someone who they didn't probably want to pay.
And when you consider what the Rams have, they have a brand new stadium, they have a Super Bowl contending football team, a great defense, an even better offense. Actually, can't even say a better offense. Probably the best defense in the NFL and a great offense. I can't see a reason why an older Von Miller who's decreasing wouldn't take a pay cut to play with that team.
Yeah,
and I think
perfect
with
situation.
the Rams, it's absolutely worth the gamble with the picks that they have been the picks they've been using anyway.
Yeah. To move back into the trade deadline, I thought a couple interesting storylines is going to be Odell staying with Cleveland, Allen Robinson in Chicago. What's going to be the deal there? And Deshaun Watson obviously doesn't get moved, but we don't have to go too much into that, I don't think, because we know why he's not getting moved. But if anyone has comments on that, feel free. But we can start with Odell. What do we think about the Odell situation? Do we think he should have been traded? Why do we think he wasn't traded?
I think if they're not going to throw to him, you might as well trade him. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if Baker's just off, but Odell really hasn't gotten the ball since he got to Cleveland. He's had a few good games, where you're reminded that he's still Odell, which I don't know why they have him on their team. I think they were doing better last year with him off the field. They don't throw to him when he's on. I don't think there's a point of him being on the team, honestly. Trade him for whatever you can get.
Yeah, about Odell and Allen Robinson, I'm not surprised they weren't moved. The NFL trade deadline's abysmal. I didn't see Odell getting moved, although there is like a lot of people like to make the headlines about the Saints and the Packers, always in on Odell, but I'm not surprised. These two guys are likely off-season departures anyway. I think it would have been smart to get something for Odell, or they will anyway, because he's not a free agent. They'll trade him in the end of the season. But Allen Robinson was on the tag. He got tagged. I hate the franchise tag.
Yeah. But
he'll probably leave in free agency for less than what he would have gotten last year, which is unfortunate because him and Fields don't have that connection that he did with Trubisky. But, I mean, I'm not surprised. These guys are both probably on the move in the offseason. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that. Derrick Henry injury. What are we going to see from the Titans for the rest of the year? What do we think about Adrian Peterson signing and everything that goes into that?
You know, I don't know what the Titans are without Derrick Henry. It's going to be fascinating to watch because they're on Sunday night this week versus the Rams. That's a nice game. It would have been an even better game with Henry. I don't know what the Titans are. I'm intrigued to find out because they have, I think it was McNichols is their backup or something like that, and then they bring in Peterson. I'm intrigued to see Adrian Peterson at 36 years old, however old he is. The Titans are interesting. I'm just going to see how it plays out, but I think they can still win the division without him.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the Julio Jones dynamic too get added. It has to get added to their offense now.
If he doesn't get incorporated, they're not going to win games passing the ball.
Yeah, they have to find a way to get the ball, but I think they're in a really good spot still because of their win on Sunday, beating the Colts. They're starting to separate in that division. I don't know what their upcoming schedule looks like right now, but I know that they got to play the Jaguars and Texans at some point, and those are going to be hopefully another 2 wins for them. But if they're not in the worst spot, because Vrabel touched on it in his press conference yesterday morning, Henry could be back by week 16, 17 with the foot surgery right now. So if they make the wild card, it's not like this is the Titans without Derrick Henry. And if they make the playoffs, they're probably making one of the top 4 seeds. So they're probably going to have to win their division to make the playoffs. So I don't. It's going to be interesting. I think that this could be a blessing in disguise because if they find ways to get Julio involved, and if they can get Henry back in week 16, 17, and they click with Brown, Julio, Henry, and Tannehill are all on the same page, then start to get the upset ready for a Cinderella run for the Titans,
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
Jameis injury. We already touched on it a little bit before. If anyone else has any more comments.
Yeah, we touched on it back when we were talking
Yeah.
about our goods this week. Simeon's not the long term guy. You got Taysom Hill coming back. We'll see if they bring in any external help. I think the Saints have a good enough defense. Hopefully, Michael Thomas comes back, sparks their offense more. They
Yeah.
can still use Kamara and Ingram, but I think they're in a fine spot. They're not winning the Super Bowl this year, but I think the Saints
I
will
agree.
make the playoffs. I think
Yep.
we'll see.
So now we can just wrap up with some deadline. What's one move? What's one team that you didn't like the way that they went about their deadline? And also, if anyone wants to touch on the Deshaun Jackson release or the Jalen Smith release today, you could do that as well. I'll start this up actually. Sorry, JD, but I didn't love the Packers standing pat at the deadline. The only reason I say that is I don't think they should have made a Von Miller move, because I think the Packers' second and third round picks are almost more valuable than anyone else's the way they draft. But I still thought, a Jamison Crowder would have been a really good move for the Packers. A mid-level receiver on the last year of his contract. He's going to be a rental, but you only have to give up a fifth to a day 3 pick for the guy. So I thought they could have done something there to help themselves out, along with a couple of the other NFC teams, because I think Dallas could use a third receiver, because I don't know Michael Gallup's time frame. He's out for longer than they thought already. The Rams could use a third, but they don't really need one as much as the other teams. Bucks obviously don't need one. So I thought the Packers could have made a move for one, mid-level playmaker, guy that spaces the field a little more on offense.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that quick. It's not surprising to anybody. We know how the Packers operate. They like holding on to their assets. They're not comfortable dealing them for someone who might be a free agent or has a large cap hit. Their salary cap was a problem this deadline. Didn't give them much room to operate. But I would have loved the Jamison Crowder. I wasn't expecting anything, and I don't think any Packers fan should be, but I think either way they're in a good spot, and they're going to hold on to their assets in case we don't know what happens with Aaron Rodgers. They want to build this thing up. They don't want to pay aging guys, but I don't think it's much of a surprise to me what the Packers did. I'm pretty numb to it at this point, not doing anything at the deadline.
Yeah, I was just, this is Rodgers. Certainly, 99% chance this is Rodgers' final season in Green Bay. I thought you could have at least spent a fifth, sixth round pick, even a fourth round pick, just anything on day 3 of the draft to try to add one more piece of the offense to help it out. And I also thought they could have made a tight end move today with the Tanya news this weekend. But
I do think they were looking around at possible moves like they always do. They're always in every conversation. I thought they definitely looked around. They definitely were willing to spend a fourth or a fifth. The right opportunity probably just didn't arise, where the Giants, for whatever reason, they probably didn't want to give up a fourth. If I had to take a guess, the Packers didn't want to give up a fourth for Evan Ingram. I think the Packers are fine where they are. It is tough, though, knowing that this could be Rodgers last year, and they're not going completely all in, but I think their signings this year show, and their commitment to Rodgers show that they're all in, at least for this.
And going off the tight end conversation, that I feel like the Falcons should have made a move this deadline. They have Kyle Pitts, who's been flourishing the past couple weeks. A very tight end heavy offense in Atlanta that doesn't use.
They don't have
any wideouts now that Ridley's gone for his mental health, and Hayden Hurst doesn't get the ball as much for a tight end heavy offense as he should. I think they should have definitely traded him away for anything they could have gotten. It's just it's a good, talented tight end one on a team that would need one, and they just are leaving him on the team, on the roster, to not do much for him.
Yep.
Yeah. And just to put a ribbon on the transaction moves, Jalen Smith, he is not what he was. It's tough to see that, because he was considered a prominent linebacker at one point. And it was clear. I mean, it wasn't a change of scenery. He's just not that great a football player anymore. I don't know what happened. But he didn't fit what the Packers were trying to do anymore. And it was a quick axe. He played 2 games. He wasn't great. You can tell he wasn't great. And it just had to be done. They needed to make room. And then I want to touch on Deshaun Jackson lastly. I think a landing spot. I mean, it's interesting. I know why the Rams released him. A landing spot I like is the Colts. I believe he played with Wentz for a bit when he went back to Philly.
I like that.
There's a little connection there. I think the Colts need someone to really take the top off the defense. They've got Pittman and T.Y. Hilton's down, which is why I think they should look into Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, I think you're totally right with that. And if you think about when Jackson played in Philly, was it 2 years ago now, or it might have been last season?
Yeah, he's been all over the place.
So he's been bouncing around, but it was either last year or 2 years ago. And Jackson had like 2 plays the whole year that were both 75, 80-yard touchdowns, and he got hurt on both of them.
I remember those.
And
they were early.
Yeah, and so I think the Colts are an interesting spot for him. But trade deadline, uneventful as always.
KB, I just want to say one more thing. Today was a long episode. We talked about a lot. I think going forward, we're gonna get much better, and I just want to say I'm excited for the journey.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, and I'm excited. You know, if you're watching this, we got on Thursdays we'll be filming weekly picks for the NFL. We're going to be diving into other sports as the seasons come around. We didn't want to get a start, into baseball right now. We're starting during the World Series, the second half of the World Series. So, but Thursdays into the weekend, you can find us making picks, social media. You can find all of our social media on our Twitter or which we'll put the link in the description for everything. But yeah, so Thursdays we'll get betting picks and weekly game picks overall. I'm looking forward to what we got in store.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be fun, boys.
Yeah, and it's got there's a lot on tap, and personally, I think we're only going to keep getting better. It's our first episode. We're just trying to feel things out, see how they go. We're going to adjust, adapt. I think it's going to be really fun. I can't wait, and and
if you're listening, thank you for listening, and hopefully we can keep getting better and keep entertaining everyone.
Yes.
All right, so that's going to conclude Week 8 of the NFL season, trade deadline, and we'll be back Thursday for picks. JD and Reese will be doing betting, their best bets, a couple of reaches for you guys, and that'll do it. So thanks for listening. Thank you guys for being on, and
we'll
see you next week.
Good talks, boys.
Yeah, thank you. See you, everybody.
Talks, boys.